Hello everyone, this is Hero Arcus, and welcome to my first ever Blender tutorial video. And in this video, what I'm going to be discussing are the 3 texture maps created and used by Arc System Works to create their anime characters for their video games Guilty Gear Xrd. I believe it is called Xrd. I apologize if I got that wrong. And Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. And I'll also be discussing outer lines and inner lines. And some examples I have of that are, well, right here where I was just pointing, where I have the outer lines. And I've also manually edited my my outer lines up here. And I even did some editing on the face. And I'll show you some examples of inner lines that I did. I have some right here on the boots, the steel toe of the boots, which are vectored. So these lines are, well, the UVs I've taken a lot of time to vector, just like they do in Guilty Gear, so that you can get this sharp line work right here. And I'll also show you a really neat trick of how I managed to do that on a cylindrical shape, or on a circular shape, but you'll get the same result regardless. And I did some inner lines right here, right along the heels, and I also did some on the sleeve of the boots as well. And I also have some right here for the pants to indicate wrinkles. And I tried to stay as simple as possible so that I didn't have to go too high poly. But those are just some examples that I have. But before we get into it, I just want to go ahead and say a few things. I apologize for any audio or video lag along this video. I'll do my best to edit this while I'm in the process of editing the video, to make sure that it's bearable and, you know, not terrible. And I also apologize if this video is rather long. The reason why it may be rather long is because I don't really have a whole lot of time to make episodic videos, you know, like, oh hey, a blah blah tutorial 1 or blah blah tutorial 2 or tutorial 3. And I also don't want to have to make you guys wait for information when I can just put all that information in a single video. So that's what I'm going to try my best to do in this video. And I also have a script right here next to me so that I can stay on topic, because I will lose my train of thought I will lose my train of thought if I don't have something to help keep me focused. So, alright, but with that out of the way, I hope you guys take a lot from this tutorial, and you know, I hope you learn a lot from it. And feel free to let me know if you learned anything in the comment section. I think that would make me feel, you know, a lot better and not make me feel as though I wasted people's valuable time. So, alright, so with that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that we'll be discussing are the 3 texture maps that is used by Arc System Works. So let's go ahead and go up here to my image editor, which is what I'm in right now. And the 3 texture maps, even though that you can see that there are 6, but I basically created 2 sets of these 3 maps. I have one for, you know, Noah female village clothes, and Noah is this girl's name. So Noah female village clothes right here, and Noah female base, which is actually just her skin and her hair and her eyes and, you know, her legs as well. But let's start with the village clothes. So right there, the village clothes, this is the base color. And if I go over here, this right here, like this section of the blue, is the base color. And that's what controls, this base color is for when the object is lit. So this right here, like I said, is just the base color. And the next color, which will be our secondary colors, is what is referred to as the Sss Map. Now, some of you might think, oh, SSS? do you mean subsurface scattering? Well, traditionally, yes, I believe that's what this might be called, but in Arc System Works' case, they refer to this as the sub-shadow surface. And I actually thought that was rather interesting. And I think maybe in Japan, maybe they call subsurface scattering sub-shadow surface because, English and Japanese are clearly two different languages. So maybe they just call it something different, or maybe this is just what Arc System Works calls it. But because Arc System Works created this style, I'll just call it the sub-shadow surface for now. Or to make it, excuse me, but to make it easier to say, we'll just call it SSS for the shadow. And that is exactly what this is right here. So this is the shadow of the sub-shadow surface, and this right here is the base color. And what controls all of this, the map that controls all of the lighting and the shading information on these models, is this map right here, which is referred to as the Ilm map. Now, unfortunately, I wish I understood what Ilm map stand for, or I wish I understood what Ilm map stood for, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to discover that information. I really wish I knew what it meant, but if I just had to take an educated guess, I believe it's called Inner Line Material Map, but, I don't want to lead you guys astray and give you wrong information. But if you guys ever manage to find out what ILM stands for, feel free to let me know, because I'm interested to find out. But what I do know about this map is that this map controls the shadow information and the lighting information. And I'll show you some examples of that, like right here, where I have some specular on the lips to indicate glossiness. But I don't really have a whole lot of specular right here on the vest. I'll show you where I do have specular. I have it right here on the boots, right here. So if I go ahead and select this and I hit tab to go into edit mode, and I go to my UV editor, you can see that, here, let me go to my ILM again. You can see that I have all of my UVs set in place. And now you might be wondering, these colors right here. These colors are very important for separating the shadow and lighting information on a model. So let me go ahead and show you some examples of that. Like right here, where I have some painted in shadows, this is controlled by the green channel. The green channel is what controls your ambient occlusion. So if I were to say, let's say if I just go right here and I select L to get everything in this area, I'm just going to go ahead and hit G, and I'm going to move it. And now you can see that my shadow is gone. So if I just click that and hit Command Z, I'll go back and now I have my shadow information. And just to show you, let me go ahead and bring this back. Let me get my light right here, and maybe I just want to go ahead and give myself another view, so to make it easier to see. Let's put that right there, and let's go back inside. And you can see that the ambient occlusion blends in with my shadows that I already have set up. Excuse me. And if I go over here and I increase the strength, nothing should change. And if I increase the angle, nothing should change. So here I have it all the way up to 180. And if I go all the way around, my painted in shadows should still show up. But let's just go ahead and put all that back. So I'll go back to 5, and I'll go back to 0. And let's just go ahead and bring this back to the UV editor. And let me explain this a little more. So, the green channel is what controls your ambient occlusion. And I also have some painted right here. So if I go over here, you can see this little black space in this area. And I'll go ahead and select these. And I'll go ahead and bring it down. And this is a mirrored model. So like, obviously you can see two boots, and I mirrored them so that I can get the same UV information once I applied the mirror modifier, so that I won't have to do a whole bunch of extra work trying to match them up. So you can see I'm just going crazy with it. Woo, woo, woo. So I'm just go ahead and click that and hit Command Z and go back. And that's what the green channel controls. And I will go into how to create these maps in Photoshop, because I believe that is exactly how Arc System Works created these three maps is in Photoshop. And now we're going to go into talking about the red channel, which is this right here. And I was like, oh, that's not red, that's orange. And well, yes, it is orange. It is indeed orange. You're not wrong. But trust me, this is red, and I'll go more into this. And this red channel controls the specular. So if let's say I believe this is the right one, or here I can go right here. Where are you? Let me go and turn this back on. Right here. So go ahead and turn this off so you can see it better. If I were to move this out of the way, now my specular is gone, and now it's over here where the blue is. And now my specular is gradually coming back because now it is back in the red channel position. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit Command Z and put that back. And you can see that the red channel is what is used to put specular on your model. And the blue channel, which I don't personally have here because I don't think it would look good for this model, but I will show you later on in this video in what cases the blue channel can be used. And the blue channel is basically like the red channel where it can add specular, but it's primarily used for adding highlights on your model. And usually that looks good on specific materials. Like, it could look good on metal, but in this case I didn't want to use it. But again, I'll show you later on in the video how to apply that and in what cases it could look good. But for right now, let me show you another example of specular that I have. I have some specular right here in the hair. So if I go right here, let me put this right here so I can see my selection. I'll go over here and go to Tab, go to Edit Mode so I can see my UVs. And if I just scroll over here, go down, and let me go to my, where did I put? Okay, ILM. I was hovering right over it. So I just have it packed into this tiny little area. And, oh yes, and the specular is also a different object, but let me show you in regards to the light rotation so you can see how the specular is reacting. Go over here, and let me just rotate you. And you can see that the specular is disappearing as the shadows go around it. And that is due to the color placement that you put this on in regards to the green, red, and blue. And I also edited the normals up here so that it can react more like the hair is supposed to, and I'll go more into that. But the biggest takeaway from the ILM map is that it relies heavily on the RGB channel information, which is obviously the red, green, and blue information. So the green controls the ambient occlusion, the blue controls, I would say, like some specular highlights, and the red channel controls the full specular. And, oops, didn't mean to zoom in that much. So right here in the lips where I have some specular, and if I select my face, or if I select my body and hit Tab and go into Edit Mode, you can see that I have some specular right here. And let me go to Edit Mode, or UV Edit so you can see it. So right here I have my specular. Right here for the lips to indicate glossiness. And this should also react well to light. Let me go ahead and go back. Get out of Edit Mode, go to Object. And if I just rotate my light, it should react. And there you go. There's a little bit of a white rim right there, but I believe I can fix that. But you can see it's reacting to light. And I'm going to show you how that works once we get into the creation of the map. But go ahead and go back. And that should be a brief overview of everything. And I also have some specular right here in the belts, and I'll show you how I did that as well. But for right now, let's go ahead and hop into Photoshop and see how to create these textures. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop where I created all of these textures. So if I go ahead and just turn that off real quick, I'll show you my base color, which is what I have right here. And I have my SSS, the subshadow surface, and if I just turn those off real quick, and I go to my ILM, which heavily relies on the RGB channel information, and yes, I will go into that in a second. So here we have our AO. If I turn that off, you can see our green channel information. And if I turn that off and go over here, you can see our blue channel information. Even though, yes, I did not have this on the model, later on while creating the character, I decided, yeah, I don't think this would look good for it, and I'll save it for another time. But I have it right here just in case I ever want to turn it on or turn it back off. But again, later in the video, I'll show you in some cases where this channel might look better. So go ahead and turn that off. And go right here to my specular or specular intensity, which is controlled by the red channel. And this controls the specular information that we have on the character. Well, this one right here is for the clothes. And I also have a file open for the skin so that I can show you some other examples. But let's just go back to the clothes and let's stick with that for now. And let me go and turn these all on. And let me go to the channels right here. So you can see the RGB. And these are controlled with specific colors to help apply different variations. And let me go ahead and explain that. And let's go to the green, for instance. Now, the green channel, which is this right here, the AO, or the Ambient Occlusion, this channel controls how we paint our own shadows on our model. Now, yes, you can, obviously you can just edit your normals, but this allows Arc System Works, and it also allows you to better control where your shadows can be placed so that you can hand paint your own shadows. So if I go over here to my village clothes, which is the exported UVs, so I did some UV editing, and I exported my UV map and brought it into Photoshop so that I can paint over my UV placement. So let me go ahead and better explain why there is white, gray, and black. Now, I want you to think as white and black as a number. And let's say, to make it easier, white is 1 and black is 0. Black means no information and white means full information. And gray is neutral. And what that means is, for the AO map, what the black is basically telling it is that, oh, there's no lighting information in this area. So if I zoom in a little bit, I would say right here where I have the wrinkle of my boot, which is at the base of the heel, not at the base of the heel, but you know what I mean. But right here in this black area, this black is literally saying there is no lighting information and there never will be, unless I put it in this white area, or sorry, in this gray area. So right here in this area, like right where I have my specular, where the heel is, This gray indicates neutral information, and that means when the model is lit, it will show the base color, and when the model is unlit, it will show the SSS, or your shadow information. So if I go over here, just to give a better explanation, so you can see that this is green, and yes, this is orange, but if it is gray, it will show the blue information when the light is pointing on it, and when the model is not lit, it will show the shadow information, which is the SSS. And that's what the gray controls. So if I go back to my channels, go back to the green, now you can see that everything else is gray, and predominantly you want a lot of your objects to be gray so that it can respond well to light. But if you want to hand paint your own shadows, you would just place your UV in a desired position, and you would just paint it black, and right there you have a permanent shadow. So that's what the green channel controls. Now, let's go over the red channel, and I will talk about the blue channel, but that'll just wait for a minute. So let me go ahead and turn off the UV map. This red channel controls the specular of the model, and that indicates where light is going to be. So like this area right here, if I turn back on my UVs, this area right here is full specular. And just like I showed you back in the Blender file, when I moved this little area right here, I selected it with L, and then I just dragged it around, and then my light started to gradually disappear as I was moving it around. And that's exactly what this red channel controls. And you can see that it is painted white, because white, as I've said before, white indicates full information and black indicates no information. That means these UVs right here in this area where it is in black means that there is no specular information being applied. And right here in this area where it is white, it has full specular information. And that's exactly what I wanted for the metal, because, well, obviously metal has light that refracts off of it. So I'm just going to cancel. And the blue channel is, in my understanding of it, it is used in specific settings. Like you don't have to use the blue channel for everything. And what the blue channel is predominantly used for is basically adding little highlights to your model. And I'll show you an example of that later on in the video, but it basically says, oh hey, I want to add some more specular, but I want it to have a certain opacity to it. And that's basically what the blue channel does. It adds like a certain kind of opacity to a specular on a model. And this will look good in certain circumstances. It will look good in certain circumstances. So you don't have to use it for everything, but I just wanted to let you know that. And again, I'll go more into that later. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about how I created these maps. So let's start on the base color, which is rather simple. If any of you guys have ever worked in Photoshop before, what I did was I just created a folder, and I just created some layers with some base color. So if I turn this off, turn this on, you can see this right here, and go right here, turn off this red. And I made everything a square, just like Arc System Works does, so that I can keep everything neat and organized, and you know, I don't have to, let's say, go up here and I add a layer, and say pick a random color, and I'll go to my brush, and let me increase this a little bit. I'll just go and you know, I don't really like that idea. Or like, say, increase it some more, and I'll go like Alright, whatever is in this area, I'll just throw my UV map on there. And to me, it just looks ugly and unappealing. So I actually really like how Arc System Works takes the time to organize their stuff, so I'll just go ahead and delete that because I don't need it. And, well, that's basically it. These are all just base colors. I didn't really do... it's not like I added too many effects, but I did add a clipping mask to something because, you know, I didn't want to have to, you know, recreate it. So you can see this right here, which is this strip. So I added a clipping mask, but I'll go ahead and hit cancel because I don't want to change anything. And now let's go over to the Sss Map, which controls our shadows. And all I did was I literally just I duplicated the base color, and then I just brought it up here, and then I named it something else. And then all I did was go inside and color them a darker color to indicate like shadow. So, and you can see that I created some clipping masks. And let me show you why clipping masks are really good and why they're important. So let me go ahead and give you an example of something. So let's say I'll create another text. Let's go ahead and I create another layer, and I get my brush again, and I just paint right here. And now let's say, oh, I want that to be a darker color. Now some of you might be inclined to, let's say, I don't know, maybe grab the magic wand and select what you did and make this darker. And then go in here, hit G to go to my paint bucket, and here if I zoom in a little bit, go to G and hit my paint bucket. I'll hit G and go to my paint bucket, and I'll select in here. But now I want you to watch the rim. I want you to pay attention to the rim. And now here I'll go ahead and hit Command D to deselect. And it might seem a little hard to see, but this actually expanded a little bit. That means that instead of maintaining the optimal position that I had it in, it expanded. And I believe even if I didn't use the magic wand, it would have done the same thing. And a lot of the time, that's not what you want. So here, let me show you a good example. Another example. So I'll just go ahead and get rid of that and add another. Let's use a different color. Let's say blue. Let me go ahead and hit apply. Let me go ahead and go hit B, go to my paintbrush, and let's just paint this right here. And now let's say that I want this to be a different color, but I don't want to have to worry about the pixels expanding. Because that's usually what it will do if you just throw a paint bucket on there. If you just throw a paint bucket on there, it may have a chance of expanding your pixels a little bit, and you don't want that. So what I'm going to do is create a clipping mask so that I can create a color that only affects this, that only affects the pixels that are controlled by this color. So let me go ahead and go down over here, and with our layer selected, which is this thing, we're going to go right here to this little circle. We're going to select this, and we're going to scroll up to where we see solid color, and we're going to click that, and now you can see that everything is blue. And the reason for this is because we did not apply a mask that only affects this one layer. And the reason why everything is turning blue is primarily because the solid color will utilize the last color that is inside your color picker. So no matter what your color is that you were working on, it will only go after the color that you have right here in this little box. So we're just going to go ahead and say, let's make this a darker color like this, and let's just hit OK. But we only want this to affect the layer under it. So we're going to select our layer, which has the color fill. We're going to right mouse click, and we're going to scroll down and go to Create Clipping Mask. And now it only affected, let's scroll over a little bit, it only affected this layer that we have right here. And now, like, go over here, double click it,
I can now change it to whatever color I want. That way I don't have to constantly keep going back and go to the color picker and just hit G to go to my paint bucket and paint it over again, because I believe that's a lot more destructive than you think it is, or at least what I think it is. But I don't need this. I just wanted to use that as an example to show you. So I'll just go ahead and delete that, and I'll delete this. Alright, but that's basically how I created my SSS. I just duplicated my base color and I added a few clipping masks to things. And because everything is basically a square, I don't really have to worry about, let's say, aliasing too much. And I'll go more into aliasing and why that's very important when you're trying to draw inner lines for your character. So if I go up here, I have some line art that I created, and as you can see, they are literally just rectangles and squares. And I have some right here that, oops, sorry. And I'll go ahead and turn on my UVs, and you can see that I have them positioned in specific ways to match the inner lines. We'll go ahead and turn that off. And now let's go into the Ilm map. Oh, wait, actually, let me show you something with skin. That's something that I believe is important. So let's say that you're trying to create a shadow for your character's skin. And sometimes it could be a little difficult to get the right color for your skin, the right shadow color. So if I go over here, you can see that everything is rather dark. So if I go over to the SSS, you can see that, well, let me go to the base. You can see that I have a lot of these layers right here that indicate color, like I have the skin right here. Bring that back up. And if I go to my SSS, you can see that everything is the same because all I did was duplicate the base color and then I named the folder differently. But the other difference is that this little tint layer right here. And what this tint is like a reddish purplish hue that is meant to indicate light passing through your skin. So here, if I just turn this off, you can see it's the same as the base color. I'll just go ahead and turn this back on, but this is literally just a reddish purplish tint that I colored myself, and I applied a clipping mask in case I decide, oh, maybe I want the texture a little darker, so I can bring this down and I can go crazy with it. But I like it where it is, so I'll just leave it like that. So if any of you guys are familiar with how light interacts with skin, I'm pretty sure, like, if you've ever looked up at the sun, which you probably should never do, but if you've ever, let's say, another example, have you ever put your hand near a lamp? You know, like, I would say, like, put your hand, like, right in front of a lamp and it shines, like, bright light. You'll start to see, like, a reddish, like, color emanating around your skin. And what that usually is, and I hope I'm getting my science right, that is primarily that is meant to indicate the light passing through the blood in your skin. And I wanted to replicate that with this reddish purplish tint to indicate that soft red light passing through your skin. So that's why I have that there. And I primarily want to do this with skin rather than with clothes, because with clothes, I believe that might look a little strange. So I highly recommend that when you're texturing your skin, and maybe even your eyes, because you can see that I have it applied over everything. Let me take that off. But I highly recommend that you add like a reddish purplish tint around your skin to get that result, because in my honest opinion, I believe it looks better. So let me just go ahead and cancel that, but I just wanted to show you that little example so that you can go, okay, so I can do this for the clothes and I can probably do this for the skin. So let's just go ahead and go back to the village clothes and let's talk about the ILM. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And it's just like I said before, if I go to the green channel, the black represents 0 and the white represents 1. So think of it just like a variable. Go back up here. White means full information, black means no information, and gray means neutral information. So in the term of the AO, let me go ahead and explain it again. The gray indicates that there will be lighting information when there is light pointing at the model, and when the light is pointing away from it, there will only be shadow information. And I did my best to manipulate that with all of this right here, indicating that whatever UV I have placed in here will indicate shadow information, meaning that it will always be shaded. And that's what the green channel, the AO channel, creates. And now let's get into creating these green channels. So let me go ahead and turn this off so that it's a lot easier to see. And if I go ahead and turn this layer off, you can see the exact same color that we saw in the channels. And how to manipulate that is, well, first of all, everything is either gray, white, or black. So like let's just pick a random example, let's say right here, you can see up here, or down there, select the wrong one, but you can see that this is belt, so these are the belts. So I have that as gray. And you can see that I have everything else up here, like right here, this means that whatever is in here is forever shadowed, regardless of your light position, and regardless of how intense the light is, indicating no information. So how to create that is by getting the green channel right here, or sorry, creating another layer and adding a green color. Now, if you don't feel like, and I can understand you on this because this is a problem for me too at times, I don't feel like playing a lot with the color hue when I'm just trying to get a solid color. You know, like you can just play around with it, but if you want a better result, Photoshop has this really neat thing right here. So if I go to, let me bring this down so you can see it a lot easier. Photoshop has this really neat feature up here where if you go to color and you go to swatches, and you can see that I already have the folder open, but if you go to swatches and you go to RGB, you go down, you can see that it has red, green, and blue. And all I did was color pick this and bring this back up, bring you back up. And all I did was hit the G to bring up my paint bucket, and then I just painted that entire layer green. So that's a good way to get some solid colors without having to fiddle around with the, with the color picker, just to make your life a little easier. Bring this back up. And then I selected the layer and I applied multiply, because without the multiply, it's going to look like this. It's just going to look like a plain, it's just going to react like a normal layer. Because this is fully green, and let me zoom out, because this layer is fully green, it's going to show over everything. So if you want your colors to apply to this green channel, just go over here and hit multiply. And now all of my black, gray, and white information is now applied to this green channel. And I did literally the exact same thing, like here with the blue channel. And you can see that I have some gray and white colors, so if I turn this off, you can see I have predominantly white colors. I have some gray right here. And remember, white means full information, gray means neutral, and black means no information. So everything out here means that there is no blue, green, or red information. And it's literally just the exact same thing. It's just a pure color that I got from the swatches, and I applied multiply. And now we have the red channel, which is the exact same thing. White, gray, and black, all that jazz. And a red channel, and I applied the multiply. So if I go over here to normal, obviously everything is red. And I apologize if it's too bright, but that tends to be what colors do. So I'll just go ahead and hit multiply to shield your eyes. But now we're going to go ahead and talk about something else that's important. Now, if I select my folder, oh, and I apologize if you hear any background noise. I'm not sure what that was, and I'm not sure if you can hear it, but if you heard that, I apologize. So here I have my Specular Intensity, which is my red channel. And as you can see, I have what this setting right here, which says screen. And if I go over here to normal, and you can see that here, if I turn everything else on, nothing else is showing like it should be. And the reason for that is, obviously, it's going to react like a normal layer. Whatever is on top is what's going to show over everything. And what we want to do is create a single map that shows all of our green, blue, and red information. And what we're going to do is we're going to select our folder with all of our information inside of it. We're going to select it, and we're going to click over here, and we're going to go down to screen, and now we can see all of our green, blue, and red information applied on a single texture map. And if you want to try to help keep track of your RGB information, you can always go over here to channels and see, okay, this is my red, all right, this is my green, and this is my blue. And this is everything combined. So now you have your RGB channel information, and you also have, and obviously, like if you show this under it, it's just gonna show all this. So if I turn this off, now I can only see my SSS, and I can see my basic. And the reason why I don't have these set to screen is because there's no need for that, because these are just meant to be their own solid colors, while the ILM is meant to have 3 separate color informations inside of a single map. So you only have to apply the screen through these 3 maps, and you don't have to worry about doing that for the SSS, because it's just going to show through anyway. So now let's say that, all right, I think I'm done. I want to go ahead and export all this information. So what we're going to do is, with our ILM selected, and you want to make sure that these folders are turned off, we're going to go over here, and let's say that I'm done and I just want to save it. But I'm okay with what I have for now, because I already have my maps created. Oh, excuse me. I already have my maps created. But let's just say that you saved your project and you want to go to Save As. And we're just going to go ahead and save this to my computer. And we're going to go to this folder that I already have set up right here. So if I go over to my ILM, you can see that I can just go ahead and select the name right here. So like, let's say I went back into Photoshop and I decided, oh, I want to change something. Like, hey, like I already have the blue channel applied, but I don't want that, but let's just say that I do. So here I have my Noah Female Village Clothes ILM. And you may have also noticed this little thing right here, the TGA. Now, this is important. So please remember what I'm telling you. The TGA, what that stands for is, if I go down here, the TGA is Targa. And what Targa does, and I hope I'm doing this correctly based on my experience, Targa is what is used to contain all of your RGB information. And because our ILM relies heavily on the RGB information, like I explained, we want to preserve all of that information. If we saved this as a JPEG, I do not believe it would be able to separate between the two. I did try this once before, and I did run into a lot of problems. So just to keep yourself safe, please use the Targa format to contain all of your RGB information. So let's say, yep, Targa, now I have it saved as a Targa, and then now you can just go ahead and save it. But now I already have mine saved, but I don't have to do that. And I have everything else saved as a Targa. I don't believe that you have to have your base color or your SSS saved as a targa. You could probably just save this as a JPEG, but in order to keep myself organized and I don't lose myself for any reason, I just go ahead and save everything as a targa and I still get the same exact result. So targa is the way to go. So I'm just going to cancel, and let's just say that you saved everything. And it is the exact same process for your SSS. So let's say that you want to export your base color, you would select that and hide everything else, because if I have the SSS on, it's going to show over it. So I'll just select my base color and I'll go to File, Save As, and, well, you know the gist. And yeah, I also have my line art right here, and I have it put on another layer in case I want to draw something else. And I have that applied on my base color, just like you guys saw in the Blender file. But I believe that is everything I wanted to talk about. Well, let me go ahead and make sure that I didn't miss anything. I'm still reading off my little script over here, making sure I didn't get lost. But yep, I talk about the base color, I talked about the SSS, and I talked about the ILM, which doesn't have a whole lot of information over here, which I believe, yes, I have the green channel turned off. But, yes, alright, I believe that is everything. So, let's go ahead and go back into Blender, and let's figure out how to apply these maps in our node editor. So I'll see you in a bit.